Well, yeah, might hear Andy outside, but this series is back. And this particular installment, because I don't need to have Eden in here to be my eyes, we're going to be taking a look at a radio which I got for Christmas 2020, and it is a pretty nice one, despite being a clone. This is the Sharper Image, it doesn't really say no, a model name, emergency radio. This thing is the survival radio you would want. This is apparently a clone of the ambient weather radios, which are apparently in turn clones of the Midland ER210. But if anything, if this thing's a clone, it's a damn good clone. So, let's take a look at this thing. So as you can see, the radio's darker in color. On the front of it here, you have an LCD screen, 6 buttons, speaker. Left side here, you have your 3 LEDs for your flashlight. Top here, you have your flashlight on-off button, a solar panel. On the back of the unit, you have a hand crank, which just folds out, battery compartment, and this panel down here, it's covered up by a flap on both sides. It's attached in the middle, actually, which hides all of your ports and stuff, and indicator LEDs and a reset button. Over here is the clip. The bottom of the radio just has nothing. So let's first talk about methods of power. Your average weather radio that we review in this series can typically be powered off of one of 2 methods. For example, over here, let's take a look at the Midland WR300. It's currently running off of the DC wire going into the back of the radio. Indeed, it works just fine.
There is an isolated threat for flooding of small streams and creeks as well as urban areas late Saturday night through Sunday.
Fuck.
Main stem river flooding is possible as well, especially along the south branch of the Potomac River. Spotter information statement. Spotter activation is not expected at this time. The latest...
But anyways, this thing is running off of the DC connector. But you can also run this unit, if I flip it over, off of 4 AA batteries. But then again, this thing is really designed to be, like, it's an emergency radio for home. The Sharper Image radio seems to be designed as something that you might, say, put in a bag under the trunk floor of your car next to the spare tire, along with, like, food, water, flares, etc., as pretty much a survival radio, because that's what this thing is. And indeed, the modes of power really give away its survival radio status. Because you've already seen the hand crank and solar panel. The solar panel's here on the top. The hand crank is here on the back. It's going to be kind of hard to film this one-handed, but you just pop it out. Folds over like that, and you can give it a good old windy wind. And you got a tripod. But also, if you keep the crank folded out of the way here, stick your fingernail in here, pop the cover off. You have access to the 3.7 volt, I think it's lithium ion cell here. It's kind of very placed. It's pretty simple. And if you get this radio, there's actually a tag you have to pull out, which goes through the cover and blocks the positive terminal on this. But you put it back in, and you actually have to turn the crank slightly. But then the flashlight will come on for a few seconds along with the LCD screen to let you know you've done good. You can also install 3 AAA batteries as a backup source of power in the event the 3.7 volt battery is dead, which it has not for me yet. But then again, I have to keep this radio fairly regularly charged. And so, as long as that 3.7 volt battery dies, these AAAs are not going to be used. And Sharper Image, much like other companies, are going to put some AAAs in it. Recommends, if you keep these things charged, don't put AAAs in it because they could possibly leak and stuff. But anyways, I'll put the battery door back on. Just clips down like that. And I'll fold the crank back over. Down here under this cover, on this side, you have some indicator lights, a reset button for if the microcontroller locks up, and a headphone socket, which we will get to the headphone socket later on. And on this side, you have two USB connectors. USB Mini B, not Micro B, unfortunately, it's Mini B. I tried to hunt a cable down for this stuff on the one that read it. And a USB A connector, so you can charge your phone up. Now, Sharper Image tells you, don't use this thing as a power bank because it's not going to be able to fully charge your phone because that 3.7 volt cell simply doesn't have enough capacity for it. They say it's best to use, like, hypothetically, let's say you're stranded on the side of the road, you need to call 911 or a tow company or whatever, and your phone's dead. In terms of the build of the radio is built out of plastic, but it's some good sturdy plastic, and if you shake the radio, you hear nothing, though that didn't used to be the case, but I'll get to that in, well, next up here. But there is, in fact, some softer plastic, not rubber, but it's still some decent material on the back of the radio here, I'm presuming for extra grippiness. And there's some cutouts here, I'm guessing to put your fingers in while you do the good old cranky. And Sharper Image recommends in the manual for this thing, which you can find online, that you don't turn this more than 2 cranks a second. On the top of the radio here, you also have your antenna, which just pops out like that. It extends. In addition to a telescopic antenna, it rotates, does all that stuff. Notably, though, you cannot bend it to the left because if you look here, this piece here, the casing here, is in the way. But even still, though, you can just turn the radio or something. I mean, it's a little tiny thing. In fact, to show you just how tiny, I've got... What do I have? What can I get? Okay, I think I know what I'll get. Because I got two things to compare it to. God, this bed sucks. Yeah, I'm currently in my dorm room of doom. Anyways, here is the Sharper Image radio compared to Old Faithful, a floppy disk. You can see here that, well, the height is fairly similar with the floppy disk being slightly taller. Width is no question, about the width of possibly 2 floppy disks. And the thickness, there's no challenge. Or if you were born in the 2000s, a CD. Once again, taller than the radio, not as wide, and the thickness, there's no comparison. Because I mean, these things don't have to have a crank mechanism and a PCB and a speaker in them. I'm gonna go set these back in my closet of, well, clothes, but I've literally just got a shelf full of the random crap. On this shelf, I have an extra Audio-Technica ATL-P60 power adapter, a stack of blank CDs, a stack like 30-something floppy disks, with 2 zip disks, and maybe an LS-120 disk in there somewhere. I think. And a random insulated cup. Because I didn't know where else to put the stuff. So let me mention the two repairs I had to do to the radio earlier today. Number one, this was just a minor thing. The antenna was a little wobbly, and I tightened up the screw on the antenna housing itself, where the antenna attaches to the antenna housing, and that was good, but it was still wobbling a little bit from side to side. So I actually tightened up the screw which attached to the housing to the casing on the inside, and that got good, and it's nice and firm. The second thing was more of a problem, which is this thing, I don't know what caused it, but the speaker was rattling around inside. So I took this thing apart, and the speaker's actually not held with adhesive or clips or anything. It's actually held in by 3 screws, which are actually exerting pressure on the speaker, holding it in, which may seem weird, but it's actually a good design because, well, it means you can remove or replace the speaker. And that's another thing that I noticed in here. It's got your standard plastic cogs, but they're good and well lubricated, etc. But, surprisingly, it's got disconnects on the inside. The main two I noticed, which are really the two most important, one was, I want to say like a 10-wire cable or something. It's like a 6 to 10 wire cable, which connected the front and back halves of the radio, which connected like the board and stuff to the reset button, the headphone jack, the indicator LEDs, and the ports, and the battery compartment. But even the speaker was, had a disconnect on it, which was really handy, and it was super easy to take this thing apart. There's literally 4 screw holes. One there, there, and there. You need a long, skinny Phillips head screwdriver to get into it. And I was using a magnetic screwdriver from iFixit. I did this in my computer repair class. It took me all 5 minutes to get that thing fixed up. And there's nothing really holding those pieces of the radio together other than that disconnectable cable. And the cables are stored sufficiently away from the crank mechanism, which is from here over to here, I want to say, which is cranking directly into an electrical generator motor. But so anyways, let's talk bands of radio, sound quality, and reception. This thing, much like radios like the Midland 74105XL, has weather band, AM, and FM, and it even has weather alert. Now, as you should expect from a radio like this, it is not SAME compatible. It actually states in the manual in the troubleshooting section that it is, I'm going to turn the light off here, a 1050 hertz radio. But that's good. I do not know what the sound of this thing is. That's something I just don't know yet. The speaker on this thing is not the best. It's a bit bigger than the speaker on my Secret CC Pockets. It's about 1.5 inch versus 1.25. But it's actually, it doesn't sound that bad. It gets fairly loud. Let me put the antenna up here. Let's start off on AM radio. It's 650.
2 and 5 touchdowns. Making orthopedics and everything else, so
700 WLW.
Your share of nearly $500 million to stimulate your bank account. 710 WOR.
No question about what that station is. WGN's a little hairy. Going in. CFZM, I'm sure, would come in better, but there's a bit of interference in here. WABC's coming in crystal clear, pretty much.
Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-342-2054.
I would put it in frame, but causes interference while on my phone.
To pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you.
it was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Big stories are told here.
Allegations of sexual harassment by Governor Cuomo.
News Radio 810 and 1031 WGY.
There's 810 WGY.
That they have absolutely nothing in common.
WHAS. That French-Canadian station isn't quite coming in because of the difference.
4975. 800-811-4975. That's 800-811-4975. Or take the free scan at reputationdefender.com.
Nurses have helped save tens of thousands of New Yorkers.
This is a WCBS. Gotta turn it up a bit, but WLS is coming in. I'm guessing it's trying to be CHML coming in, but it's too much bleed. Okay, I can't tell if that's KDKA or WBZ, so I can't see the screen. Either way, though, on AM radio, this thing gets some fairly good reception. And even during the daytime, I can pull in 690 AM, which is, admittedly, it's a local station, but it's like a county away or something. And they run a mixture of music and talk. On FM radio, this thing's pretty good, too. .107.1 Really 106.7
500 pounds. And finally, the world's busiest commercial airport is the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport in Atlanta. I've been there so many times. I should get a cot and a tent there. You're listening to Nights with Alice Cooper. As a touring rock star, I fly so much you might as well call me Captain Cooper.
1 part loving father, 1 part scratch golfer, and 2 parts bingo. You're listening to Nights with Alice Cooper. Rocky 106.1. Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents.
There's Rocky 106.1 WRQE FM Cumberland. It's owned by Forever Cumberland. It's a bit of a subsidiary of Forever Media.
Only pay for what you need.
There's 105.7. It's a simulcast of 105.3 from another area. Speaking of 105.3, I forget the call sign. It's Froggy 105.3 country station. WVXS, well, okay, it's a little bit of history. The station, I want to say it might have had a different call sign before WJGF, possibly. But either way, it was signed on at, well, around, I want to say it might have been 1980 or something. They had the call sign of WJGF, which I forget the exact name, but it was the initials of the station manager. Later on, when George Park ran the program, the call sign was switched over to WVSB FM, which annoyed those who had taken the class of Sir JGF, whose name I forget. Feel free to nuke me in the comments. But the WVSB call sign stuck around until maybe 2016, 2017 or something. WVSB, of course, standing for West Virginia School for the Blind, because the transmitter was on campus. So, I don't know if the transmitter was on campus, but I know that the programs and stuff were run from the basement of Keller Hall before the remodel. It was bought by South Branch Community Technical Center, which for a couple years ran with the Maverick Country 104.1 format, which was sappy country. But then over the summer at some point, they switched over to Maverick Rock 104. They play pretty much any kind of rock, and I like them. The only thing is they have very lossy compression in their audio stream, which is fed from the from Petersburg to wherever the transmitter is. 101.1, it's a Christian station. Don't know if it's K-Love, Air One, or what. 100.5. 100.1, it's a country station from Romney.
Wheeling blew an 11-point lead against AB last night.
99.5, Cumberland's Classic. This is the Cumberland's Classic Hits. They're currently running a sports program.
Jalen Johnson up top, 15 to shoot.
Don't know what that one is. There's 94.1 WQZK out of... Is it Kaiser, I want to say? Somewhere in there. 91.9 WFWM out of Frostburg. Sarah,
Baptist Church, and the Amani Wings from Carnegie Music Hall. A salute to Black History Month.
I'm Jesse Thorne. Errol Morris.
And it's a religious station.
Sympathetic depictions of real
That one's gonna be NPR, Western Public Broadcasting.
of human beings in general. What encomiums to the human experience?
So I'm guessing one's the one in Petersburg, one's the Martinsburg one. That's the FM band around here. Not too crowded.
It's bullseye.
No, that's not NPR. Maybe it is. I don't know. Yeah. Let's talk weather band. So this thing's a proper 7-channel radio. One weird thing though is whenever you push the volume up or down buttons, you hear this static. The most infuriating thing about this thing on weather band though would have to be its bizarre squelch thing. If you ever used a scanner before, you know what the squelch knob does. Effectively, it sets it to where anything with too high of a signal-to-noise ratio, which is set by the knob, then it'll just cut out. This thing, though, doesn't cut to silence, it cuts to white noise that it's generating.
Petersburg, 6.7. South Branch.
Because I'm on channel 1,
Potomac
Moorfield.
River at Paw Paw.
Watch episode put the antenna
11.8.
down.
Potomac River at Hancock, 9.6. North Fork. South Fork, Shenandoah River.
And it's
Linwood,
super infuriating whenever I'm
5.5.
attempting NWR DXing on this thing, which is why I don't DX on this. My main NWR DXing radios are actually my WR100, WR300, and my 12-260. So I found it gets really good reception.
3.8.
But anyways, this is
Cuckhaven River
WXM
near
73 from Moorfield,
5.6.
coming in great.
This hazardous weather outlook is for portions of eastern West Virginia, northern and central Virginia, and central and western Maryland. Day 1, tonight. No hazardous
channel 2
weather
Frostburg.
is expected at this time, as well as urban areas late Saturday night through Sunday.
Also comes in great.
Main stem river.
However, nothing else comes in. Indeed, I'm still curious. Apparently, Channel 4, WXM 42 Hagerstown, does serve Hampshire County. But I don't know why. So anyways, let's talk flashlight and emergency thing. So this thing has a flashlight on the side. And it's pretty freaking bright. And it's like, I got the lights off in the room here. And then there are lights coming from the WR100 on the wall, and my TV screen, and the backlit LCD, the spark over there. And whenever I turn this thing on, you can see the wall, the curtains, and all that stuff. And if you hold the button down, it does this. I'm not gonna get too long because it hurts my ears, but it just flash. It doesn't flash SOS, it doesn't seem, but it flashes between, I guess, red and white or something, and it produces that very fucking loud noise. Let's talk audio output. This thing has a headphone jack, but it's actually something surprising. It's got stereo audio on a radio like this. I actually discovered that when I was in computer repair, making sure I didn't reassemble the thing wrong. And I was curious how the headphone output sounded, so I actually connected it in to the input of the only speaker I had with me, which is something not really meant to be used as a speaker. That particular thing being, if I get out the AC adapter for it, my little baby. I love this thing so much. Oh god, what sound did it get knocked into now? The good sound. Yamaha Reface CS. Let me just clear out this sound that I got knocked into. That's enough of that. If I get out the aux cord I keep in here, because I also keep a because I keep in this bag the keyboard, the power cord, and where the sustain pedal is supposed to go, I've got velcroed and wrapped together. An instrument cable for whenever I need it. In the event I can't find an instrument cable, it's a 3-footer, but I tend to just sit at the table because I have not ordered the keytar. Shit. I don't order the keytar strap for this yet. I also keep in an aux cord and a USB-A to USB-B lead, so I can use this thing with my MIDI plus MIDI engine. But anyways, the input is live. If I touch it, you can hear the good old-fashioned buzzing. Not that. So I'll plug this into the radio, take it off to one side, pull it too far back, and jam the connector in. This aux cord's a little too big, but there's housing. But let's turn the radio on. This sound is only coming from the reface.
Highs in the lower 50s, 80%. Monday.
You can actually hear ticking.
How the vaccine is going in risk. According to the vaccine.
When I talked with him in 2018, he just
I can't play too much of this, but listen. It is undoubtedly in stereo.
Friday through Friday night for the central Shenandoah Valley and Blue Ridge Mountains. Elsewhere, some accumulations of light snow or light freezing rain could occur Friday night into early Saturday morning in the Allegheny and Potomac Highlands, as well as portions of eastern West Virginia, extreme northern Virginia, and north central Maryland. There is an isolated threat for flooding of small streams and creeks, as well as urban areas late Saturday night through Sunday.
So the audio output on this thing is quite fantastic. So this thing has a clock. It might have an alarm. I don't really remember. I don't prepare for these episodes, as you know. But so, the Sharper Image emergency radio. Should you buy it? Well, it's fairly expensive. Honestly, too expensive. I'm thinking if they were to lower the price by about $30, then I would say definitely buy it. Because even if this thing is a clone, it's still a very reliable, well-built radio, which is packed with more than enough features to, in my opinion, beat out things like the those ambient weather things that it's based on, and it doesn't have the AC adapter issues that those things have. You know, they actually had to issue a recall about. Because initially the AC adapters were known to start releasing smoke, maybe catch fire, I forget. But then, and then they said, hey, listen, we're recalling these AC adapters. Send us in your AC adapter, and we'll replace it. Then it wasn't just the AC adapters, it was the whole radio, because the thing was pretty cheaply built. But, anyways, at the current price of this thing, I would say if you can get like a discount on it or something, then definitely go for it. Otherwise, I would recommend going with like an Eton FRX3 or a Midland ER210 or ER310. Now, if you've got the money to spare, then I would say get this, but you do have other options in this segment because this isn't the only emergency radio like this. There are definitely plenty of other options that are cheaper, possibly better equipped and stuff. But this thing, you get the quality. And mine even came with a Sharper Image discount, like coupon card. Thanks for dying. Sure, it's meant to be played in TV. Also, I love that I can literally fucking bleep myself with this synthesizer. I would call this thing a piece of shit, but it's not a piece of shit. What the fuck? I'm just gonna say the actual fucking words. Fuck censorship. Sound with can't do a vibrato on this. Shit. It sounds screwed up.